Welcome to the new Rainmaker Podcast, a weekly show for visionary founders and team members alike to come together and share the heartfelt, the cringe, and the radically honest truths about what it's really like to build and work for some of the world's most exposed brands on the biggest internet stages. I'm your host, Veronica Romney, and after working for some of the biggest names in the online space myself, I've learned that it takes both leadership and dream team collaboration to truly scale a company to its greatest potential. You can build a business alone, but you cannot scale it on your own. And my goal on today's episode and every episode is to inspire our dreamers and empower our leaders. Make sure to follow and share my podcast with your friends and colleagues, and feel free to tag me on Instagram at vromney with your insights and ahas. Now let's make it rain on today's episode. Before we get into this week's episode, I wanted to quickly share with you a very special, once-in-a-lifetime, never-before-offered opportunity for you, my beautiful online CEOs, founders, visionaries, and your entire marketing team to attend on April 26th and April 27th with me, Veronica Romney, the Dream Team Architect and OG Rainmaker herself. I'm going to be helping you transform your beautiful marketing team of doers who you care about and love into a dream team of strategic leaders who are confident making decisions in your absence and making it rain so you don't have to be the head of marketing for yourself anymore. It's going to be an incredible opportunity. It's going to be you and other teams who are doing really big things at a very similar stage of growth, who are all wanting and craving more efficiency, smoother processes, and a way for you guys to work together where everybody's working in their zone of genius. If this is something that you've been wanting, you know that there's more potential in the team that you have, you know that you're a part of the team that has the potential to do all the greatest things possible, but yet you're not 100% empowered to work in your zone of genius, you're going to want to pencil this in. April 26th and April 27th, join me for a very special marketing team VIP intensive you'll not want to miss. Now let's get back to today's episode. Rainmaker Podcast. Okay, I have a really smart. Like, I haven't formally tested this woman's IQ, but if I did, it would certainly be above the norm. She's already blushing. You can't see if you're listening. I'm going to geek out on all things marketer with one of the savviest marketers that I have personally gotten to know and work with, and just little pieces here and there. And I cannot wait to bring you this conversation, because what happens when one of the smartest marketers in the face of the world also needs marketing help and support without it diminishing from their uniqueness, because they are the marketer, they have a unique perspective. So how do we find the balance? So I'm going to introduce to you, I'm sure you might have already heard her because she's that fabulous, but I'm going to introduce you to the Social Bungalow's Shannon. Shannon!
Oh my gosh, I'm like shaking, sweating. My cup runs over. I already have the beach sweats. Thank you for that intro. I'm so happy to be here and to chat with you, brilliant people too, who are listening to this. Thank you.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, hi. Should I just jump in?
Yeah, we can dive. Well, I was going to say, I'm super excited. Number one, that you're here. Number two, you're fabulous. I'm just going to shower all the flowers on you, and you're just going to just receive it. I'm learning more about feminine energy. Just receive the love. But for those of you who have not heard about your background, especially you and I have a similar background in the sense that we have that corporate plus that online entrepreneur grit. Why don't you tell people just a quick, who am I and how I got here?
Yes. So I just say corporate marketer for 10 years prior to starting my biz, but specifically I was at the height. I did hold a VP of marketing title for a smidge, but that was a little bit of a, glory fest more than it was actually earned. I was the national director of sales and marketing for a couple of different businesses. I did a fitness franchise. I did a publishing company. It's so interesting how skills can be so transferable, which really speaks to how we start our online businesses and how we serve our clients. So that whole song and dance, and it was really great and really rewarding. And I didn't totally know what could be possible in the online space, despite being a digital marketer for these corporate companies. And I'm kind of glad I didn't jump sooner, just due to how sophisticated the online space got. And when I did jump in, there was real opportunity at that time that I could move very quickly on. So I had kind of ascended to this point of working with some celebs and doing big events for the Super Bowl and getting flown around America to really fabulous cities. And it was only when I'd achieved those things that it was like a veil dropping to where I could see that there was more. Like I couldn't see beyond it until I had achieved. And then this whole world, this shiny corner of the internet opened up for me. And I started to consume certain books and certain podcasts and certain Instagrams and think, I could do this. It's that quiet whisper in the corner of your head. And then you listen and you leap and it's terrifying, but it's brilliant and you're so lit up by it. So I did that whole journey 5 years ago now, started the Social Bungalow. It started as a outsourced director of marketing was like my whole take. And I was doing done for you outsourced marketing for some local and some digital businesses until I really found the online entrepreneur, typically female tilting, and understanding how much this Wild West space was lacking true sustainable foundational marketing practices versus silver
Mm-hmm.
bullet, quick fix tactic, cycle of stuck stuff. And so I went on this sort of pseudo hero journey to kind of rewrite some of our approaches, learning myself along the way as we went, but taking my experience into it. And the Social Bungalow is an online-based education source for online entrepreneurs.
Woo! All the things. Yes. You've seen different facets of the world, and certainly business from that marketing savviness that you have. Like it's funny. I can't unsee the world from the view of a marketer's perspective. Like even when like speaking of the Super Bowl, like I watch the Super Bowl equal parts the game, but equal parts the ads. And then how they orchestrate the ad like drops and the teasers even before the actual game. And like I just love it so much because I just see the world in that way. Which maybe can get annoying to some people, but I just love it. And we're a little bit kinship in that. And you're a marketing nerd too. So. And now you share your nerdiness with other people so they can take advantage and grow their businesses. So I'm going to dive into you because I know how you serve and show up for your audience and for, your customers. But I want to know who, serves up, shows up for you, because and by the way, let me just frame this. By the nature of what I do, which is building teams, especially specific around marketing teams, I work with a lot of personal brands, online authorities, CEOs, that what makes them so unique isn't that they're just like a marketer like everybody else. It's their unique take on all things. It's their perspective that people purchase. It's like for example, like why Orange Theory. I'm obsessed with Orange Theory. And I think it's so unique and different and fun and like all the stuff. But it's essentially HIIT training. It's high intensity interval training, which has been around for like ever. So what's cool about you, I mean, you're not just another marketer or another marketing expert. You have a very unique perspective and a unique take and a unique, view of how you do marketing, how you tell other people to do marketing, that it's not rinse and repeat. Now that can get exhausting being the face and you're not Flo from Progressive or the Gecko, but you are the attractive character. You are the face. We want to hear that what the messenger has to say that gives me hope when maybe other marketers have failed me in the past. How do you do that without getting burned out, without having that content creator fatigue? Because if you're not feeling fresh, if you're not in a place to be creative and to have a take and to listen to a podcast or read a book that inspires you to say, to have a different version or a different take on something, then the company's in peril. So walk me through that evolution where you have felt this level of support and when you haven't felt that level of support in your business.
Mm-hmm. The first thing that comes to mind is just optimizing self also as you wear so many hats as an entrepreneur, let alone if you're a service provider, a coach, or a course creator, you are the product and then you are the face delivering that product. It is a lot of responsibility. And to not have a clean diet, to not make priority for my walk and for myself, I find that I will feel like a Sahara Desert creatively, emotionally, the entire thing. And so taking care of me, even before I take care of put the mask on yourself before you put it on your partner, your baby, etc. That's how I feel very much so. So I just want to plant that seed also that there's some non-negotiables for me in that.
Thank you.
But with my team, so we've had a couple different lockups of the org chart.
Mm-hmm.
It's been smaller, but right now we're at a spot where I feel really good and I feel pretty optimized. Ask me again in a year and I'll be like, it was all wrong. Yeah. We needed to do this to scale. But we have a project manager. We have a director of marketing, which we'll dive into more. And then we have a client success manager as well. And all three of those roles were roles that I was holding quite intensely. I was
Mm-hmm.
a marketer, I was all the to-do list, the task, the orientation, the conversation with every single vendor, and then I was all facilitation for the clients. And each one of those was, well, marketing and client success were the scariest to give up. Project management was not scary to give up, but that is probably one that I still struggle with the most because I like to control every little detail.
Mm-hmm.
Therapy, things to work on. But with that, that is the team right now. And then I'm CEO, face of the brand, but I also sit in a bit of a director of marketing seat too. And we kind of
Mm-hmm.
pass between the front and the back end of the business. And then my husband, Ryan, he supports in a bit of a legal, financial,
Mm-hmm.
run the numbers capacity, and also straddles Bungalow Coffee, our physical business.
Okay. So let me clear this up. So, and Brian is lovely. P.S. I've had a chance to meet
He is
the
lovely.
Mr. Shannon, and he is lovely. Um, and he holds the company, he supports the company.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you have now team members who help you and support the prospect centric lane, which is all that marketing jam. And then, of course, now once they've purchased from you, now that they're that customer client, and that needs to be serviced and held as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, I'm gonna to whatever degree you feel comfortable, guys. So I'm gonna ask the probing questions. I'm not your therapist. We don't have to do a therapy session, but letting go is a real thing in all quadrants of life, whether it be personal or professional, especially for women who are super women who can do all the things faster than anyone else. Like truly, like I know I talked about your IQ, but you also have a speed to what you do, which is unique. Not only are you wicked smart, but you can also execute really, really fast, which I would imagine then is deflating or disheartening when you can't find team members who can be nearly as quick and nearly as quality as what you can do on your own. Does that resonate with you? Has that been a thing for you?
Yes, my whole spirit is screaming amen, brethren.
Yeah. And so, how have you? I'm just in, get personal with it and whatever you'd feel comfortable sharing. But like, how have you had to wrestle that? Because I think the expectations that we have on ourselves, which is of the highest standards, if we translate that to someone who is not us, we can also then inadvertently push people away from us.
Mm-hmm.
Aggressively, or they self eject because they feel like they can't, like you're running a 4 minute mile, they can't run a 4 minute mile. So how has that showed up for you in your leadership?
In leading some teams in corporate, I know that one of
Mm-hmm.
the most demoralizing things you can do is redo their work. And
Ooh.
so I have to sit on my hands sometimes and say, it is going to take you maybe twice as long to train
Mm-hmm.
and to show and to loom and to this and to that, to have a performance meeting, to really stick them to their KPIs, to do all of these things that are going to get them to the level where you'd like them to be, your expectation level. But don't redo their work, because it will get to the point of, why should I even bother? You're going to redo it anyways. And they might not say that, but it'll come through in the quality. And then that irritates you to no end. And eventually that
Mm-hmm.
person leaves, or you let them go. And they could have been the best, what could have been like partnership style. They could have been the best person for your business, but we mismanaged their spirit along the way. So with that, I try, and it's stretchy, guys. This is not easy to do, but I try as I might
Mm-hmm.
with I'm just basically a big kid with a really long to-do list, entrepreneur self, but also I'm a high-powered CEO self, to be able
Mm-hmm.
to balance, I'm very busy, and balance, I need to be a leader. And it gets, especially with new team onboarding, we know it's going to be time consuming, but we don't realize the depth, the 6 months even of it. It can be very, very, it calls you to a new level yourself. And
Yeah.
so with that, the leader is both the person who's leading you right now in the now, but they're the person who's seeing the future. And so you as the CEO are kind of holding hands with both the current and the future, and you're needing to shepherd your team across that line while also ensuring that they do
Mm-hmm.
so without burnout, that they still have a high quality of life, that their work performance is discussed and really sewed into. So all that to say, something that I really try hard to do, and I am in no way perfect at it, is to know that it will be stretchy for me as I am in training with a new team member, or that we're taking on a new task. I'm offboarding something else to them that they're really now ready to take, that there will be training. There will be review,
Mhm.
hire, and you do an assessment before an interview, like all of these little steps
Mhm.
to ensure that they not only are, Gino Wickman's traction, they get it
Mhm.
capacity to do it, but that they get the mission of it, they get the why of it, and that they have their own mission themselves. And I will take away their mission if I crap on their work by not saying that, but by redoing it. So the more that I can train you, if you have a heart for
Mhm.
this company and for our clients, I know that you're going to show up if you have the skills to do it. I just need to sow into you.
Oh my gosh. You know how you got tingles? I got tingles because so I started my career as a 20-year-old deploying emails at ancestry.com. Whoever gave me like an email list of millions and millions and millions of email addresses to be steward over, I don't know, questionable, I'm sure, because I was 20 years old. But I remember when I switched from one manager to the next, and I had such a positive experience with my first one. So then when I got the second manager, who literally rewrote every single creative brief I ever attempted at, with no instruction of like what I did or what standard that I was missing. There was nothing. There was no training. There was not, she would just literally rewrite it and then submit it to the director of creative. And there it goes. So like, even though I'm an A player, even though I have an enormous standard for myself and I'm Virgo, I'm a perfectionist, all the things, I stopped trying as hard
Mm.
because it was like a diminishing return because I was so demoralized. And then, yeah, that really brought me back. Like, whoop, there I was. And it went back 15 years in my life. The other thing that resonated with me with what you were saying, and with this has happened certainly in our program, because like we basically have the CEOs step out of the way so that they can not be their own CMOs and they can let somebody else support them, aka the rainmaker and the marketing team. But some of the grief that comes up in our rainmakers, because if you think about their position with a personal brand, they're not replacing another director of marketing, they're replacing the boss.
Yeah.
How daunting, how big of a shoe, how much imposter syndrome that you feel. And these are crazy fast visionaries who've had to learn everything by doing everything for such a long time. So I remember having a conversation with one of the rainmakers and like her in her state of like just deflation. She's like, my rainmaker or my visionary can write these emails in like 10, 15 minutes. And it takes me like 45 minutes to 60 minutes for one email. Like I'll never get there. And so I remember the visionary was coming up to me. She was demoralized. Like, I don't know. Like I'm trying to tell my rainmaker that that's not what I expect of her. Yeah, I can perform and I can do it at that level, but that's not what right? And so there was this friction that was building. And so I remember telling my visionary CEO, like, do you know what I think would help with really young professional talent that's just, itching, they're just dying for like a bone? Is if you showed them old videos of you or you told stories of like baby visionary days when you didn't know what the fuck you were doing and you were a hot mess and you sent out an email that said, dear hashtag first name hashtag, because it didn't dynamically pull it correctly from your system. Like if you could just transport this person in a time machine physically or just communicating through stories, like that version of you, it would take such a pressure off this talent to step into somebody who's already clocked in 10,000 hours of mastery. And that really, really helped this situation. I remember Natalie once at Boss Babe sent me a video of her the first time they launched the society, and her husband was recording it. And she had this like mouse voice, and she was just in like these scrubs. And it was before the lashes and the hair and all the things that you see today. And I thought it was one of the cutest things I have, and most humbling, approachable things and relatable things I've ever seen. So anyways, just a little hot take, I guess, on that.
Yeah, great tip.
We'll be back with this interview, but first, I have to share something really exciting that I've never before offered, and it's going down on April 26th and April 27th, and you need to be in the room. You need to be in the room if you're a CEO who has a marketing team that could go so much further and you know what they're capable of, but for whatever reason, we're a team of doers, but not yet the dream team that I know that we're capable of becoming. On April 26th and 27th, I'm going to be hosting a very special, never before offered marketing team VIP intensive for literally 70% off what I normally charge a VIP intensive. And that's where I'm going to help you and your team transform from doers into dreamers, a team of strategic leaders who are executing things in rhythm, smoothly, fast, in a way that all of you are just working in your zones of genius. All of you are feeling empowered to do your best work. And that's all going down on April 26th and 27th for a crazy price with some of the coolest people in the room. And I'm inviting you to be in there with your team. Join me April 26th and April 27th. Now let's get back to today's episode. Okay. So can we zoom in into your marketing, because you're a marketer. And what's interesting, and I want to talk about this, is because you are such a proficient and smart marketer. Like you said, you're like, there's still a part of you that will always be that director of marketing. And I say it all the time, like I'm still an OG rainmaker. I'll always be a rainmaker because I can't not be. How do you then also complement your marketing team so you're not competing marketer to marketer? Because I don't like that either, where you both are like, who's a smarter marketer? It's like, who wants to beat a fifth grader? I don't like, it doesn't have to be like that. So how have you found complementary attributes as opposed to competitive attributes?
Well, I have to tell myself I do not have the best idea. I am not always the smartest. You hired these people for their skill sets, knowledge, and experience for a reason. And not to say that they say ideas and I'm like, poo poo, that sucks. But just to go into every meeting with such an openness, like it's almost a mantra to look in the mirror and be like, I am interested and open to my idea being a springboard for the right idea that comes forth from my team. But also we've created, there are certain projects that we also have a copywriter who we've recently started working with in a part-time employment / contractor role. I forgot to mention that earlier. So when I sit down on a meeting and I've mapped something out and I say, all right, I'm presenting this foundation and I'd love to get, here's where I'm stuck. And I'll usually write things from a couple of angles so that we can all see my stuck on the page. I could see this title being a positive tilt or a negative tilt. I can't tell which one is going to resonate more. I could see the purpose of this. We're ending up and taking them to a journey over here, but was this too long form or convoluted? So sometimes and I just sit there and I'm like, what do we think? And I ask everybody to share what was your initial reaction. And also finding out if some people are quick starts or fact finders, like the Colby method.
Colby.
Yes, because sometimes you have thought and you expect that you can just say something and they're going to be able to process and spit back out. And some team members are like, I need to sit with this and put my AirPods in order to give you a sound thought whatsoever. So establishing who needs to review what ahead of time, who can hear it in presentation form, and then when we can actually get to that point of feedback, it happens quickly, but just to note those pieces. And then from there, I pause at every junction. I try not to steamroll or fire hose. It's like, here is the first part. What do we think? Everybody speak. Great notes, great notes, great notes. Next thing. So that process, when we're working on everything together, it's very collaborative. But my additional note would be, I was definitely coming up against friction and we were tripping over each other when our director of marketing, Chelsea, was sitting in also the social media and launching seat with me, in comparison to then what we call team behind the scenes that she's now started to own, the evergreen funnel, the affiliate campaign, and the referral campaign for the newsletter, and ongoing KPIs for our paid ads towards the funnel, the stickiness of our nurture content, our opportunities with podcasts, like all of that stuff. You don't realize how it's literally a second job versus the front facing public real-time money-making launching social, the stuff that picks at you constantly. And if I sit more so in that launch seat and she sits more so in that evergreen seat, how it really has set us up for more scale. And I feel now like I've cloned myself versus me and me are tripping over each other and like getting our arms locked up and then punching each other in the face.
Hold on. HR. First of all, I know Chelsea very, very well. I had a chance to work with her, and she would never punch you in the face. She's like the most California, free loving. Oh my gosh. I just thought that was really funny because just the personalities, but I hear what you're saying. And I think how wise in some regards, you just divided and conquered, right? Like, look, you're smart. I'm smart. You got insane experience because she does. You're like the literal marketing take on all the things, which is your brand. And so instead of, I guess, saying it was a wash and like walking away and both feeling frustrated, like how did two smart people not get this right? How did two well-intended, smart individuals who wanted to make this work not get it to work? And I see that sometimes. And to me, I think those are some of the more heartbreaking scenarios when a team member and a CEO with the best intentions, they don't work it out. Or they call quits before, like you said, like clearly you like Jimmy rigged it where you're like, okay, this isn't working, but doesn't say that the whole thing's not working. So what can we do? And the dividing and conquering of your marketing lanes, pretty freaking genius. Actually, I'm not gonna lie. That was really obviously we could do like a follow-up in 6 months, a year from now, like how'd it go? But I think that is actually really, really smart. And so when you guys are coming back and collaborating, What's also kind of fun on this is like you can take what you're learning on the front end, because like you're like a comedian when you're on the front side of the marketing and those front end launches. You're like a comedian where you're getting to see how jokes land or certain things land real time. And that's the most agile part of marketing, is like responding to the marketplace as you're launching something new or trying a new lead magnet, or all that kind of jazz. Where evergreen is more foundational, and like you said, affiliate or referral partners is more outward communication, where it's almost like PR oriented as well. So you're a representative of the brand externally to the brand.
Yeah.
So you get a different validation, and you have, it's almost like scientists, because with evergreen, it's like, red button, blue button. There's like a lot of different micro, things that you're testing. So the fact that you on both sides can share each other's learnings from your different quadrants, I think would also be really sexy for the betterment of the whole marketing effort. No?
Yes. And that was perfectly said. And thank you for summarizing it like that, because it really is divide and conquer. It really is.
Mm-hmm.
This is a muscle. And the more that I can stay in that launch public facing comedian real time, my audience is a living, breathing organism that's telling me what is
Yes.
like, I need to kind of stay in that muscle flex, and the ability
Mm-hmm.
for us to come together and hear what's landing and what's not regularly, and how that
Mm-hmm.
then infuses into real time opportunities on the back end or the behind the scenes
Mm-hmm.
end. But her to sit and say, all right, from a foundational level, what are our highest performing emails? What are our highest performing
Mm.
classes? And it's more data oriented versus more energetic and trend oriented on the front end. It's just been so. And so I guess to circle back kind of full circle to your white space question, like where can you find the space to have a hot take, is I'm living with the people. I had a client say to me on a call the other day, I'm feeling a content dry spell and I'm just creatively burnt
Mm.
out. And I feel like every time I open a post from you, you're talking right to me. And I said, that's because I'm talking right to.
Because I am.
Yeah. I
Mm-hmm.
said, I was like, watch me make a post about this. Like, you were
Mm-hmm.
my muse. And so when I am able to really lean into that, the creative neurons that connect because of that freedom to be, and her freedom to be, has been really, really remarkable. And so just to also give you some hype, I, of course, found Chelsea through you, through your Rainmaker
Mm.
job fair. Just such a fulfilling experience. And you really held us, and you recommended who you thought would be a great fit for us, which I really appreciated. We did some power sessions prior to really deep dive on our work with
Mm-hmm.
her. Then you came through, and I saw Chelsea on that piece of paper, and she just glowed off like my. I was like, I must get her whatever it takes. So with that, then coming in with what she had been doing, which was, head of marketing and launches and what have you. She worked at Boss Babe and all these really fabulous
Mm.
things that translate into the Social Bungalow online space. And then that's where we came up against some friction. And so I was trying to do soul searching. Is it me? Is it my ego? Is it, all this stuff?
Yes.
And I realized sometimes there isn't, there can always be a shade of this, but sometimes there isn't some bigger, I'm gaslighting myself issue. Sometimes it's just not as strategic.
Oh, say that again. That's so good. Hold on.
Some
Gaslighting myself.
Yes. Sometimes us entrepreneurs can gaslight ourselves so hard because we're so smart and we're such deep thinkers that we can make cases for every single option. And it is so hard to then listen to your intuition, make a decision. You're looking for almost a thought partner in your team, in your coach, in your programs. And if they aren't the same deep thinker and they don't know it as much, and of course, the whole usual trope, nobody cares as much as you, that whole thing, you
Yes.
can spiral and you can say, am I the problem? What's that TikTok audio? I'm not the problem. Am I the problem?
Yeah, Taylor Swift. I'm the problem. It's me.
So all of those, sometimes it's true, but a lot of times we are almost told that's what it is, because it's kind of a sexy
Mm.
mindset post to make. So you're like, okay, I must be messing something up. When really we just need to make a couple small strategic tweaks that are just releasing the shackles and allow you, your team, and your business to go forward quickly.
Hold on. Hold on. My whole body was like, what? That was so good. Well, because can I tell? So you hit a nerve. This is what happens when two women get together. Now we're just talking. We forget that we're recording a podcast. This is what's happening for me, at least. Because I've struggled with this a lot. I have really, really, really high standards for myself. We do as a family, but I also love the book Extreme Ownership by Jocko. Well, love, love, love that book. Not because I'm obsessed with the military, but I just love the principles of like, yes, extreme ownership. And if you build a culture where everybody exhibits extreme ownership, oh my gosh, right? But I've struggled with this too, because in the art form or in the act of trying to be completely accountable to all and self, and I am extreme ownership, and everything starts and ends with me, blah blah blah, all that stuff, I can also destroy my own self-confidence all on my own in my couch, like if I'm not careful. And I've had this conversation with my other CEOs too. Like we had a whole discussion on one of the visionary calls, like as a provider, to what degree are you responsible for the outcome of your students? Like if you know that your students aren't completing the courses or they're not taking advantage of the curriculum or whatever it is that you sold them, I mean, you can't take away somebody's free will and agency, but like, so, but extreme ownership is like, no, I'm 100% responsible for getting my students across the finish line. But are you? And then we had this really deep, like profound conversation around it from both sides. It was like, you were, devil's advocate. We were playing both sides and debating about it and having really good counsel. But I didn't translate that to I like play ping pong with myself and serve against myself, and sometimes not in healthy ways. So when you're like gaslighting yourself, I was
Yeah.
like, ugh. How do you know that you're in that like shit shame storm that Brene Brown talks about? Like you're in this shame kind of mess.
Mm-hmm.
How do you, one, are mindful enough, because you move so quickly, how are you mindful enough to catch yourself? And then what do you do to get out of it? I'm just curious.
Well, something that came to mind while you were talking, and maybe this does answer it or doesn't, is I was on a walk the other day and I was listening to a podcast with Manifestation Babe. Of course, she always has a nugget. And she was talking about you have spent your business thus far with a glass vessel, like you did when you were a kid, where you filled up the different colors of the sand and it stacked in all of these different layers. And you
Mm-hmm.
go to do something new, or you got feedback that, maybe embarrassed you, triggered you, like all these things that create risk aversion, that can keep you paralyzed, that can put you in a shame spiral, and that can just keep you from showing up and selling. And with that, you almost feel like the next thing I step forward and do, that I'm not going to take with me everything I've learned and how much better I am now because of those experiences. You don't pour out
Mm-hmm.
your sand in order to do the next thing. Like you are just continually layering on more sand, and it gets better and more beautiful. And it's like a kaleidoscope of who and what you can be for your students and your clients when you move forward, knowing the wisdom that you have accrued through successes and through losses. And that for me, it like literally just made me start crying while I was on this walk. And I was like, what time of the month is it? And I was like, no, I'm not stressing. This actually did hit me.
Uh-huh.
And I realized for me, a lot of times, when you've done so much, the paralysis, the shame, like the things that can happen and how you can gaslight yourself, you do stay in this cycle of stuck to a point. And with anything that goes wrong, when the risk or the game gets bigger and the risk gets higher, because you have now a team and you have more students and your business is bigger and your exposure, your audience, every word out of your mouth, you feel like you just recognize
Yes.
it. Like all of this stuff, the responsibility just gets bigger and bigger. And of course you expand
Yeah.
to be able to hold that. But with that, there's just these days. And I was thinking, like, if one thing didn't go right and it was in a bigger capacity, maybe behind the scenes, but it just wasn't what I'd really planned for. And it wasn't what I've done in the past. And I'm like, crap, am I broken? Is this not working?
Mm.
Am I using the old tactics and those are no longer gonna, nobody's trending with these anymore? Should I be doing this? Do I need to get on YouTube? Like, blah, 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 blah. You get
Spiral, spiral, spiral. Yeah.
that. I heard her say, like, you're not pouring your sand out. You are just layering more on top of it. And you have the space to hold this. Like we are flowers in a pot. And if our roots are at the max hitting the pot wall and we're trying to call in all this expansion, you need to replant yourself in a bigger pot so that your roots can grow. And I think a lot of times we plateau because we grow, we grow, we grow. And then we get to this point where we're like, why is it not working? I'm trying to get to the next level. I want to go from 2 to 10 million and all of these things, but our pot is the same size. And sometimes letting yourself know that everything you've done thus far, where you are, you're better than you've ever been. Let's get out of the shame to a point and just take a step forward. Because even if you're embarrassed by something in the past that took place, you know so much more now, the clarity
Mm-hmm.
than you ever have. So I guess sometimes for me to break out of it, it's just a pep talk in the mirror of like,
Mm-hmm.
you learned through that. It wasn't a
Mm-hmm.
failure. You're not broken. It's not hopeless. You're not defeated. There is so much clarity that just came through the win and the loss. What can we see and how do we amend?
I feel like I just went to church. Like, can I get an amen on a Wednesday or whatever? Yes, 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 and yes, yes. So, I don't know if you know Adrienne Richardson. If you don't, I can introduce you because she's like one of my most favorite human beings in the whole wide world. And she's such a proponent of like, we don't fail. There's no such thing as failing. We learn, period. Hard stop. So like the fact that you said that almost like verbatim, I'm like, well, some of the smartest people I know are saying the same thing, that they just eradicate to some degree that the sense or label of failure and just relabel it learning.
Yep.
I learned that even from my parenting coach. I kept on saying like, man, my oldest, he's so hard. He's so hard. Okay, well, what happens if I keep saying that the kid is hard? It's going to be hard versus like, this was a challenging day. And I like a good challenge, like just the frame, like, come on. Because we're all self-fulfilling prophecies to some degree, right? Okay, the pot thing. Can I just say, because I am presently, as I kind of told you before we turned on the recording, I am also going through a period in which I am moving pots from one pot to another bigger pot. And in some ways, I am Beyonce and I am fearless and I am all the things. And then I'm like, oh shit, like it's like equal parts. Like, what am I doing? What am I doing? So I resonate with that a lot. And quite frankly, what I have noticed is in my most expansive periods where I'm moving flower pot sizes, is also where there is some trimming and some refinement, and quite frankly, a clearing of things that I have felt safe by that needed to be and has to be cleared out of the way for me to be my most abundant self. And like, I know all that sounds woo woo and very intangible, but if you know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
It can be a clearing of a relationship. It can be a clearing of a particular group that I was associated with that no longer is in one flower pot size and doesn't fit the next flower. Like there's a clearing of sorts. Gosh, by the way, it's just thank you. My brain, sometimes I do these podcasts and like I'm the host, but I'm the one being served. So I just want to say thank you. Thank you very much. Just like the listeners, hopefully as well. Can we go back to, because your perspective is so invaluable in so many ways, not just to the brand and the business, but to anybody who, your friends, your colleagues, like all that. I almost want you to tell me like your typical day. Like what's a typical day for a content creator who is as proficient and profound as you are? I love asking this question because the person who's making six figures off TikTok, like I just spent with her a whole weekend, and like we're all asking like, okay, tell us about your day. How many, hours a day that you work, or this. It's amazing to kind of get behind the scenes. So like the question came up was like, what do you eat for lunch? Like who wants to know? Everybody wants to know. So it's like, give me a typical day in Shannon's life where you are in your highest content producing state. Just break it down, because as nosy as we are, I want to know.
Yeah, totally. I pre-prep the content. So it's not happening in any given day. And there's typically like multiple big days of it for the next month. So it's not just a one day batch thing. I sit down in order to produce content. I usually wrap themes around what the upcoming sale is going to be. So even if it's not selling for 2-3 months, but it's all about your business model and your structure, or it's all about launching, like I am going to start leaning my content, pivoting its face towards that topic to go on a journey with the audience. And if somebody finds me randomly like 1 month in and they have this whole backlog of me talking about launching, and then in the next month I launch a launch program, I definitely want that to be the cadence. Mm-hmm. So I sit down and I just brain dump out all the topics. I look at what worked in the past. I look at trends. And I realized about myself when I was in high school studying for a test, I would take my notes and then I would go in class. I would go home to study and I would build myself flashcards, but I had to rewrite my own notes. And I would try to fit into all these different content creation buckets that different experts were like, okay, you do it in ClickUp, you do it in Notion, you do it in this template, you do it on Trello. And I'm like, okay, trying to like, which one is the right one? And I realized for me, I need to brain dump it out super messy. And then I print it out and then I highlight them in order. And then I take it back digitally and then I put it in ClickUp. And it's this redoing process, which is time consuming. And I don't necessarily recommend if you don't need, but I need to strain through the colander to get to the hot. Ooh. So that really helps me kind of refine my filter. That's a whole big, beautiful 2 days. Then from there, I get it in ClickUp. I do my emojis, make it feel cute, color coordinated. And then I do it a week by week stack. So week number 1, I make a task. The week status is week 1, the week of January 1st to 6th, whatever it is. I've got Monday. This is the story I'm doing. Another task. Monday, this is the post I'm doing. And then each one inside of it is its own little universe of what I want to talk about, or the caption or the graphic. So I build it that way, and I do it over the span of a week for the next month, and then we schedule it, and I just do my stories in real time and my responses and my nurture. So with that, as far as how much I touch content and on any given day, DMs, community nurture, comment responses, and stories. And I don't do all of that
Okay.
solo. I do all the big stuff and the big conversations, but we do have team who's like out there actively growing the following and interacting.
Okay.
So from a day perspective, I felt for the longest time like this was my dirty little secret. And I'm like, this is just a waste of my cognitive energy.
Tell me.
I wake up and I immediately go to work. And I don't,
Dirty little secret.
I don't
Okay.
have like, a yoga stretch. I don't have a lemon. I don't do sun salutations with the dogs on the veranda. I just get up and get my laptop. But I love to do that because I like a deep 8-9 hours. I sleep long and deep,
Mhm.
and then I get up and I grab my cup of coffee, I grab my laptop, and my brain is already racing. I'm like, this is what we're going to do for that client's pitch, and this is how we're going to do it. And if I quiet that and I try to fit into a box of like, no, do that around 10 a.m., it's going to be gone. My cognitive is not the same. So I get up and I let that all pour out of me for a couple of hours. Then I get ready for the day. I like to work out, I realize, more so in the afternoon. So that's when I finish up everything around 3-4 p.m. max. I go do my workout. I come home, I have dinner, I clean, I hang, I do my night routine, I start back over. But within all of this, my one caveat is that we have a coffee shop, which is 30 minutes away from our house. And that's where our offices are. So I would say 4 days a week I'm there, 3 days a week I'm home for the day.
Okay. But wait, what do you eat for lunch? Because
Okay.
that what you need it.
Let's talk about this. So I do an alkaline diet plus meat, and I have been doing this for a year and some change, and I feel better than I ever have. And I have maintained a weight that is more appropriate for my height consistently. My skin is clear. My brain is more lightning speed, gut brain balance. So alkaline is the opposite of acidic, meaning that your gut is in a state of acidity when you have sugar, wheat, certain things, depends on the person, but they specifically have no grains, no dairy, no sugar. So it's very veggie, whole foods, and then I incorporate meat personally. So I have not had a grain, a dairy, or a sugar not from fruit for a year and a month. And I have always, just dependent on the month, randomly, I'll go up and down by 10 pounds so easily in my past adulthood. I'll be 135, I'll be 145, I'll be 137, I'll be 152. Like, and that would be the range so consistently month after month. And I would have this anxiety. I got a speaking engagement in 2 months and I'm really excited about it, but will I fit into those jeans when the time comes?
Oof, yeah.
So over that. And I just really wanted to
Yeah.
commit to this. And it has been so fulfilling and rewarding. And I'm just shy of 5'7", and I've been 135, even easy breezy. And it doesn't, weight scale, all that does not matter. This is my own personal stuff. But where I feel healthiest and what the like technical norm of the whatever they give you for your height, I was like, yes, this is where I feel healthy. This is where I feel light and good and free.
Can I just say that's validating? You don't know this about me yet, so I'm just going like, wow, TMI, here we go. But I am in a process. So 2023 is all about health for me. So I'm in the process of trying to normalize my hormones after having kids and all the things, really like aggressively and like intentionally. Not that it sounds like contradictive, but like I'm just very intentional this year. So I am also presently off gluten and dairy.
Yeah.
And I feel great.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, things are like my body's like acne wise and just the congestion or so to speak. And people are like, yeah, your skin looks so much better. Da, 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 da. So like, I think I feel better. I'm not doing necessarily for the weight. I'm sure that will be a ramification of not having gluten and not having dairy. It's just because those two properties in particular are very a lot of inflammatory when it comes to hormones because of the way they're processed in the United States. It also like F's up your hormones. So I'm really excited about this. I've only just been doing this for like just like a month or so, but so far I'm a big fan. I'm like, wait a minute. I don't know if I'll ever go back.
Right. I know. And it's like, live a little if you want a pizza in 6 months from now. But
Yeah,
really,
live a little. Yeah.
that's like your lifestyle. It just ends up being so good. And everybody who's listening,
Yeah.
if you haven't seen Veronica in real time lately, her skin is glowing. She looks like a newborn baby cherub. I swear to you.
Oh my gosh. A baby chair. Yes. My face looks like a baby's ass. Yay. Okay. All right. We have to wrap this up, but I just will say I too am not a night owl. I wake up, my brain is like firing very, very early in the morning. So I really do resonate with that. And so if you lose that, if you're listening to the podcast and you're a writer, like writing in the morning in particular as well, when you're fresh and your brain hasn't been like cluttered by the world or your, the other things that are going to demand of you. So I really resonate with that. And that's not a dirty little secret. I think it's cool that you own it and it's really what works for you. And I think that's the overall message, you guys. Like, whether it comes to architecting a team, when it comes to your daily routine, which I didn't mean to rhyme, but I'm here for it. Like when it comes to the things that make you tick and make you feel great, it's all going to be personalized. So just because Shannon eats a particular way, or I eat a particular way, or my team is this size and her team is this size, doesn't really matter. You got to honor the CEO within, you got to honor the person within, and then build around that, because we're, as you know, Shannon, like I'm all about protecting that queen bee. I'm protecting the person whose cup needs to be full and filled in order to fill and others, right?
Yeah.
So I just really want to express my appreciation for you, your vulnerability, things that you were able to share, especially about your team. Not everybody is nearly as comfortable because it feels a little vulnerable. What happens if that's not the case 6 months from now and the team looks differently, which tends to happen when you are a fast start and you're growing at the rate that you are. So that is the expectation, no pressure. And I'm just grateful that you were able to disclose that for anybody who's listening that might be struggling with some of the things that we talked about today.
Absolutely. And yes, I mean, everybody take your own, sometimes you hear one thing on a podcast and because it's within your ears and you're like, oh, and that is just one thing that sets you off on a quest. So if you ever had any questions or you didn't like anything I had to say and it didn't resonate with you, like take it with a grain of salt. This is all our own journey. Absolutely. And I just wanted to thank you for having me. Thank you for this because it was such a fun jam session. Like we're real life friends, but the ability to be interviewed in a way that was very fluid and very powerful at the same time was fun. And you are one of my favorite people to listen to. You are so prolific in what you say and you gassed me up a lot. Thank you. But you are just as incredible. And the way you speak, like we just did a summit and Veronica's like, oh, I'll take this answer. And then outpours pure gold. And I'm like, man, how did she do it? And very minimal buts, ums, and ands. It's beautiful.
Oh, the Toastmasters, thanks.
You're right. So thank you. Thank you for putting yourself out there, for sharing your brilliance with the world, because I learn so much from you. I open your newsletters, I read your posts, I tune into the podcast, and you're one of my favorite people to learn from. You fill my cup. Thank you.
Oh my, stop. Okay, hold on. Give me a second. Like a conniption over here. Words of affirmation are my love language, so I'm going to save this clip forever. It's like my sunshine filter on my bad days. Right. Okay, but you listen, we're going to talk. We got to tell the good people where they can hang out with you, because you also are currently cooking up something that will identify a significant business blind spot. I mean, I don't want to reveal too much. It's almost like just give them a little shoulder. But like you're about to drop something that will really help people who know and feel like something's off, but they don't know exactly what it is, but they just know because intuition doesn't lie. So where can people find that out and then also obviously work with you immediately?
Oh, so nice. Well, the Social Bungalow on wherever you get your social media, and socialbungalow.com as well. But I really hang out on Instagram. So the Social Bungalow, and then come DM me. I always hang out there. We are dropping a little quiz. It's quite intuitive. I'm very excited. And it is going to help you identify your business blind spot and really that area to focus on, to heal in order to grow. It is, even though we talked a little woo today, it's not woo. It's very, functional. There's 4 different main reasons and results. And in this online space, troubleshooting and the data and the spiral that we talked about, there's so often so many different, well, was it my message or was it was my price? Was it this? And it's going to, based off of a smart series of questions, help you identify, we think this is the blind spot and here's what to do in order to really clean that up and scale forward quickly. Do not burn your business down and rebuild it and your offers and your niche. You have done so much work to get here. You have such a great foundation. It is not broken. You are still amazing. We are going to figure this out with just one small specific tweak.
Yes. Because that's so hard. There's so many. It's like a scientist that, like you're testing, if you change or tweak too many variables at one given time, how the hell do you know what it was that did the thing? So like, yes, is it price? Is it messaging? Is it the components of the offer? Who the hell knows? Is it the way that I said it, how I said it? Am I smiling enough? There's just a lot of, so I really appreciate that, because to your point, it's not going to be woo. It's going to be something that I can feel empowered by and then take action from, which I think is really what you're good at more than most, is that I feel empowered by following your content, reading your content, consuming your products, and I can take action and get results, not just learn something exciting.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Well, thank you, Shannon, for joining us today on the Rainmaker podcast. Thanks for listening to the Rainmaker Podcast. We believe you can't get real results or have real relationships that last without being real first. If you resonated with today's episode, leave us a review so we can keep serving up the truth and tips that help you become the empowered leader that I know that you are. And always head over to veronicarami.com to check out all the free resources I have for you and the show notes from this episode. Until next time, my friends.